Now we turn our attention to Scott Burns, who joins us right now. He is with 7 Days for the Troops, and there are some really cool things happening, including an upcoming event called A Southern Salute to the Troops with special guest Pete Hegseth. Now, I'm assuming when Scott and the team at 7 Days for the Troops was able to secure Pete Hegseth to come as the speaker, he was not yet the Secretary of Defense, but he is now. And what a timely time to have Pete Hegseth coming in to speak. Scott, good morning. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me. And you are correct. Just real quick, we back in July decided we wanted to do something different this year to help raise money for what we're doing and to actually kick off a new relationship that we formed here with another nonprofit. And so we decided to have this dinner, and I reached out to Pete's people back in July and worked it out. He was going to come in October, and then everything started happening with the election. And then he said, hey, he sent me a message, said, hey, can we do this like in March? And I was like, sure, why not knowing then everything that would take place since then. And even, somebody's going to ask that they're listening, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. One of the things that we've gotten a lot of questions on is, hey, is Pete still coming? And I believe when it comes to raising money to help veterans, you use every possible option you have to make sure things happen. And so I called Roger and Senator Wicker, and I said, hey, do you think Pete can do this event if he becomes next Secretary of Defense? He goes, well, I'm meeting with Pete this week.
Hey, Scott, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. My apologies. Your internet connection is breaking up a little bit. I want to be sure that people are able to hear you, so we're going to give you a call and see if we can move this over to the phone so that we've got a good, clear connection. I think you were talking about Senator Roger Wicker and him assuring you that the Secretary of Defense would still be able to join us. So we're going to have Lance calling you right now. We're watching on video. I see him searching for his phone. We're visiting with Scott Burns. He's co-founder of 7 Days for the Troops. We're going to find out a little bit more about that organization and get him to tell the rest of that story about Pete Hegseth, now the Secretary of Defense, coming to Tupelo. By the way, tickets are available for that event still. You can go to the website 7daysforthetroops.com and click on the events tab. Some tickets that you can purchase. It's happening March 20th at the Antler in Tupelo. Scott, have we got you now?
We are good to go as of now.
There we go. All right, Scott, technology sometimes rears its ugly head, but appreciate you sticking with us. Kind of lost you as you were explaining. You said you had reached out to Senator Wicker, curious about whether or not this was still going to be able to happen with Pete in that SecDef role.
Yes, so when I reached out to him, he just happened to be meeting with Pete that week because they had to talk about the upcoming procedures and all that. And so he asked Pete, and Pete said, look, I want to get through this confirmation, but I still am open to doing the event. And so that was kind of the last word that I'd gotten until Wednesday, and I got a call from Pete's booking people and wanted to confirm that he was still coming and how things were going to look a little bit different. But so we got confirmation on Wednesday from two different sources in Pete's office that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth would be at our event.
Fantastic. So it's a fundraising event. You talked about partnering with another nonprofit. Let's start with 7 Days for the Troops. I know there are people out there that know exactly what your organization is about, but there are also people that are hearing about it for the very first time. So take us to kind of the founding and the mission of 7 Days for the Troops.
Well, 7 Days for the Troops started as an event 19 years ago. It's probably about this time 19 years ago that I was sitting at home. I was in the Marines. At the time, I had an injury that I'd sustained while I was in the Marines and was having a lot of problems with an ankle, and it was keeping me from doing stuff. I couldn't be in the military anymore, and so I wanted to do something to help, but had no clue what to do. And I heard a story about these kids that were raising money to buy calling cards to send overseas. And I was like, well, you know what? I can help them. So I built a tower in the parking lot of the mall, built it out of scaffolding, and I camped out on top of it for 7 days. And that year it was just called a Support the Troops event, and it was a one-time deal, and it was so successful that I decided, hey, I'm going to try this again. And here we are 19 years later. We've raised almost $1 million doing this event, not only in Tupelo but across the country. And so our mission has always been to make sure that veterans are getting the need that they are, the things that they need, helping fill the gaps where there's something that the VA may or may not can do for them at that moment. But one of our big missions right now is we've kind of shifted from the all-terrain track wheelchairs that we were doing to, we've had a lot of veterans call that are struggling, an emergency situation of paying a light bill, or we had one veteran reach out to us and they had a child that passed away and didn't have the money for funeral expenses, so we were able to help with things like that. But then we also team up with other organizations in Mississippi and other states, because we are, and I'm not trying to brag when I say what I'm saying, but my event is unique. And so we're able to raise money pretty well. And so we've teamed up with other nonprofits to help them in their mission of what they're doing to help veterans.
Scott, I think one of the things that people, when they give money to a charitable organization, especially an organization that is designed to help military, because there is a very special heartstring that tugs on for a lot of people. There's sometimes concern about, how do I know that the money that I'm donating, the money that I'm giving, is going to get where it needs to get? How do you guys make sure, in terms of oversight, that donors, people who are so generous with their money, know that they are giving to an organization that is making sure that this money gets to veterans who need it?
Well, when I founded this, as a Marine Corps veteran myself, I've seen a lot of organizations out there that say, hey, we raise money to help veterans, and a large percentage of that donated dollars goes to help, pay bills, and there is some overhead with, running a nonprofit.
Right.
But the way we set our organization up, and for 19 years it's worked this way, and if everything goes like it's going, we should still be able to do it this way. But we've got 100% donated dollar that goes to help veterans. All of our events and everything that we do and all of our overhead are covered by sponsors that, have helped us over the last couple of years. But if somebody writes a check and makes a donation to 7 Days for the Troops, 100% of that goes to help veterans. Even to the fact that some of our sponsor dollars, at the end of the year, I'm one of these guys that don't think that, you should have, $20,000 sitting in the bank if you're saying you're helping helping veterans or whatever you're doing. Is at the end of the year, you shouldn't have a whole lot of money left in your account.
Yeah.
So we even use sponsor dollars at the end of the year to be able to do Christmas for kids, for veterans, and any other items like that. But we've worked really hard to make sure that we can tell people with certainty that if you make a donation, that donation is going to help veterans.
Scott, give me a story. So someone that 7 Days for the Troops, your organization, has been able to help in a way that it changed that person's life.
Well, one that comes to mind just right off the top of my head is there is a veteran in West Point, Mississippi, and somebody had reached out to us on his behalf. He had a surgery done, and it was just a routine surgery. Well, something happened during that surgery which paralyzed him. And he basically was working. Now he can't work. His wife was not able to work because she had to take care of him. They had a newborn baby at home, and we tried to, we wanted to do something that would be long-lasting for his family. And we kind of have this thing set up where if we help you this year, you have to wait 365 days. And so what I did through my organization and the contacts we had is we raised money to help him with a couple of bills, but then we turned around and I had I worked with the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Group, and we did a diaper drive, and we reached out to them and said, hey, we're going to deliver you diapers. They had 3 kids still in diapers. Wow. And I just happened to see the gentleman this weekend, and I said, so how are you on diapers? And he goes, well, we're about out. So we provided enough diapers to last them for about 6.5 months, which to some people that's not, diapers. But if you're not having to spend money on diapers, you can spend that on something else. And so we try to do things like that. We did a tiny home. We've done 2 tiny homes with our partnership with Purple Heart Homes out of Statesville, North Carolina. One for West Point was a 90-year-old veteran that lived in West Point that's home was destroyed by the tornadoes that went through there last year.
Yeah.
And then this past summer, we were able to provide a veteran in Oxford with a tiny home. And so you talk about life-changing. When you give somebody a place to sleep and a place to lay their head and know that they're going to be okay, that does affect people's life.
You can check out 7 Days for the Troops on Facebook. You can see information for the upcoming event in Tupelo. Again, it's March 20th of this coming year. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is the featured speaker. Some tickets are still available. Scott, thanks so much for your time.